with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Monday, January 26, 2026. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Wally Khan, multimedia reporter based in New York, covering state violence and working class America, has been reporting from Minneapolis. Also on the program today, VA ICU nurse Alex Preddy shot dead by federal goons in Minneapolis on Saturday morning. Shooting takes place a day after over 50,000 Minnesotans hit the streets. Thousands more joined the strike over the ICE invasion there. Democrats finally to take a stand on funding ICE in this upcoming budget vote. Some Republicans, a few, not many, getting wobbly knees. But in the Senate, Thune still insists on a full government funding vote, including DHS funding. Pam Bondi, meanwhile, says ICE will leave Minnesota if the state hands over sensitive voter roll information. This is how they're determining where they're going. Look at that list of 20 states that have refused to hand over this information, and things will start being clear. DOJ slashes funding and training for youth subjects of sex crimes, or I should say for investigating of sex crimes against children. Got to save money somewhere. 800,000 without power in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. New York State on the verge of joining the redistricting war. FBI agent who tried investigating Renee Good's killing resigns. Immigrant detainees protest inside a Texas camp that is imprisoning a 5-year-old. And Moderna is curbing investment in vaccine trials because of U.S. anti-vax sentiment. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, folks.
Definitely not Fun Day Monday.
Not Fun Day Monday. Emma Vigeland, Sam Seder here. Obviously, over the weekend, the ICE violence has been ongoing. But just another explicit act of authoritarianism, of violence, indicating that the mission of these federal immigration raids and invasions of cities are not a function of public safety whatsoever. I don't know if we're going to play the video of the shooting as we go on in the program. Maybe we will. But I imagine everyone has seen like the different angles.
There's no forensic debate about anything.
There really isn't. It happened at 9 a.m. The first video that came out was from a local Minneapolis paper. I just happened to be on Twitter at 9 a.m. So watch this thing unfold. The first video was from across the street where you couldn't get a clear notion of what had taken place. Within hours, drop site acquired the video from the woman in pink or red, who people could see in the first videos on the other side of the scrum, as it were, videotaping. And then as it gets over the course of the day, very quickly, and this is important because Kristi Noem was out there lying, like full on lying. But by the time she got up in front of that podium to lie, there had been so many videotapes circulating, comparing the angles, that before she opened her mouth, the narrative was quite clear what happened. Preddy was in the neighborhood. They talk about him as if he was a protester. He was not protesting. This was not a protest.
Yep.
There was about a dozen people, I think, people in the community, like this is a residential street, who came out because of ICE. And he was one of, at least you could see at least a half a dozen people who were videotaping this. He was standing in the street to get a better view of sight of what ICE was doing. He was also sort of directing cars past him because they had also, like, nobody was clear what was going on, just like people driving. The ICE people, goons, have decided they don't like people videotaping them, came over to shove, the ICE guy shoved a woman who was videotaping and flattened her onto the ground. She had both her hands on the camera. It was not a question of a threat. There was no activity except for across the street.
But Preddy was also filming. Like
Right.
when we're saying, like, just to bring back to the overarching theme, they are terrified of having accountability. They can't get ahead of the story. Like, there's the killing of that man. I'm blanking on his name. Keith Porter by ICE, and there's no video of it, so they can characterize it however they want.
Exactly.
But the reason they brutalized Preddy and the reason they brutalized the woman in that video was because they were filming them.
So the ICE agent shoves the woman down onto the ground. Preddy goes to the woman to try and help her up. The ICE agent then pepper sprays both of them in the face. And Preddy is attempting to protect the woman, and the ICE agent grabs his arm, starts to spin him. Other ICE agents see that this ICE agent has basically tackled now Preddy. So at one point you have like 5 or 6 guys on top of him. They have his arm secured. One of the ICE agents sees that he has a holstered weapon. He pulls the weapon. He says something to the effect of, like, gun, or I got his gun. The only real question at this point, and certainly ICE has not made this allegation, is that as the guy pulls out, I think it was a SIG 30, was the handgun that Preddy was licensed to carry. There are some people who have speculated that that gun went off by accident. And that inspired the other ICE officer who had already drawn his weapon because he heard the word gun. I mean, this is, conjecture a little bit, but just from the video, who knows what was in the minds of them. And he started to fire, and he fired at a minimum 6 shots.
Right. And there's no dispute about whether or not Preddy had his hand on the weapon. The question is if that gun was discharged by accident when it was pulled off of him, or if the shots were fired and there was no firing from that weaponry by the ICE officer that took it off of him. Either way, you'll see, when you see the video, of course, I think a lot of people have at this point, he fires multiple rounds into his back. This Preddy was a nurse caring for his community, helping a woman, and these wannabe masculine agents shoot a guy, these cowards shot him in the back as he was trying to help a woman on the street. And to your point about, like, oh, this wasn't a protest, they keep calling everything an operation. Preddy we don't know exactly why he was there, but when you're occupying a city, yeah, everything is a part of your so-called law enforcement operation because you're pulling people out of their cars and terrorizing them on the streets. So anyone that chooses to help apparently is interfering with a law enforcement operation. This is as fascist and authoritarian as it gets.
And so once once they shoot him and 6 or 7 times, it's unclear. I guess we could play this video from after the fact. This would be number 4. You will see that one agent is on the ground searching Preddy, basically yelling, "Where's the gun?" Assuming that there was a gun there. And then, according to the affidavit of a 29-year-old medical, I think, student or internist, they would not let that person go and examine Preddy until they showed their license, which of course they don't have their doctor's license on it, and went there and saw that they were not providing any medical assistance to him whatsoever. All they were doing was counting the bullet holes.
They didn't want him to live.
Well,
same thing
not
with
only
Renee
that,
Good.
but understand what they were doing. They were trying to manufacture a story so they could get their story straight.
Yep.
This was all about sort of like retconning this situation and trying to figure out how they were going to get out of it. Go ahead. All right, so you hear him yelling, "Where's the gun? Where's the gun?" And then the other ICE agent who had already taken the gun before the shooting started.
Right.
Now, the point of it being that he was holstered, that the gun was holstered, is the way that DHS announced what happened is he brought a gun to a protest and he was armed. The implication being that he was using this gun and waving it in front of the DHS people. And so they wanted to create that fiction. But again, the video came out. There were so many videos that came out. By the time they had announced that, everybody knew it was a lie. I was watching MS Now. They had a couple of the law enforcement, ex-law enforcement types on who said, it's unclear. You didn't appear to be waving the gun or doing any of this. And it's hard for us to trust what DHS is doing. The analysis of all this misses the central point, is that DHS definitely did not want people videotaping them murdering somebody. But there is no leadership that is telling them to do anything differently than what they're doing. When Renee Good was shot, ICE agents and all these federal goons, there was basically one of 2 directives that they could have been given. One would have been, we've shot somebody, we need to back off. You need to avoid engaging with protests or with people videotaping to the extent that you can. Do really go out of your way to avoid engaging. Or the other one is double down, tell them that they should have learned a lesson and do not change anything you're doing. In fact, get out there and make sure that people don't get in your face anymore.
Yeah, be ready to cover it up faster.
And it's quite clear it's the second. Any talk of this is unprofessional, they don't seem to be trained. I mean, that's all true, but that's besides the point. The point is they are being sent out there to do exactly what they are doing. You can see footage of these guys as they are masked like a gang, supposedly dealing with protesters. One guy shooting his gun and says, "This is like Call of Duty. It's cool."
Right. And then said boo-hoo to people who were crying after they saw Preddy being shot multiple times in the back. Greg Bovino said, Caitlin Collins of CNN had this statement, said that essentially the federal agents that were involved in the shooting, because in the killing, there were a bunch of them. They were beating him up like a gang, mass gang. That these agents are no longer in Minneapolis and have been reassigned to other locations for their safety. Bovino had said. Now, let's be clear: they're fleeing state authorities, just like Jonathan Ross after he murdered Renee Good and shot her and killed her. Immediately whisked out of the state. This is what they're pretending is a law enforcement operation when they're acting like the mafia. Yeah, actually, the mafia is probably a little bit
has more rules.
Has more rules.
Here's clip number 5. You can see this is just random shooting at people, tossing aids.
They were also there's
tear
footage
gas
of them brandishing their weapons in the face of journalists, just from yesterday too.
It just blows that way. Fucking idiots.
Oh yeah, there's your complete
well, that's
like
the part.
Okay.
But
now
that's
here is
other part, right?
Okay. That took place about an hour after the killing. I would say somewhere around 11 a.m. or so. This is just after the killing. This is a separate thing.
When they said the boohoo part.
Yes, this is just after.
Right.
I believe this is the clapping, guys.
Yeah, sorry, we're having a connection issue, but yes, this is the clapping.
Okay. This is just after Preddy's been shot. You can see that guy clapping there, like our job is done here. Play this again. Going at the bottom of the screen here. And he just turns around like they're so clear.
There he is.
There is no threat. The guy claps and then just walks away, like turns around like we did that. It's stunning.
Yeah, I guess that wasn't the other part that I was referring to, but I mean, you could just take my word for it. We heard after, Renee Good was killed, one of the ICE officers, most likely Jonathan Ross, said, effing bitch. And then what we heard on camera after this was boo-hoo, because people were upset at what they saw in front of their eyes. It's We'll cover this later on, but one of the 7 Democrats in the House that voted to basically, advance this ICE DHS funding increase, because as we played from Pramila Jayapal last week, there was basically an accounting trick with the last budget. So it looks like you're maintaining funding, but it actually is an increase in funding. And there were 7 Democrats that voted to do so. I'll just read their names. I missed one the other. It was Henry Cuellar, who won his primary a few cycles ago against a wonderful progressive Jessica Cisneros by less than 1,000 votes after Jim Clyburn and Nancy Pelosi went down to support him. And he is an anti-abortion, pro-ICE, anti-trans Democrat, voted to advance that funding. Mary Glusenkamp Perez, Jared Golden, Don Davis, Laura Gillen, Vicente Gonzalez, and Tom Suozzi, who is a representative from just a few miles away in Long Island. And this morning he sent out an email to his voters saying that he failed. Quote, I failed to view the DHS funding vote as a referendum on the illegal and immoral conduct of ICE in Minneapolis. That's less than a week ago. So that's how quickly these politics are changing. And too bad you decide to fund the ICE Gestapo instead of seeing what was right in front of your face.
All right, we're going to do a whole thing on the how this has impacted the funding vote as the show progresses. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Wally Khan on Minneapolis in the wake of this shooting. We'll be right back after. We'll be with him after I read these ads that we have. There's a product that I was using for a decade prior to them becoming sponsors, becomes more and more relevant with every day. Delete Me makes it quick and easy and safe to remove your personal data online when we have things like surveillances, massive data breaches, and frankly, a lot of people looking to dox you or to chill your speech, or it's just a very intimidating time, I think, for a lot of people. I've been using this service for, like I said, at least a decade because of my job. But increasingly, it has value to people, just to everyone. I mean, just in the way that I used to use it, but also in terms of things like phishing and identity theft. It really is key. A lot of the scams that you get in terms of phishing have very little to do with technology. They have everything to do with like some type of social engineering. When people get your names, your family's names, all this, et cetera, that they can buy from a data broker at any time, they can use this to contact you through your email, make it seem like there's somebody that knows more about you than a random stranger would. That's how phishing attacks happen. It's easier than ever to find that personal information. You go to these data brokers, your address, your phone number, your family members' names, et cetera. And then sometimes they'll combine this with stuff they find on the dark web. With Delete Me, you can protect your personal privacy or the privacy of your business from doxing attacks before sensitive information can be exploited. Thanks to Delete Me for sponsoring the Majority Report. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our audience. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/majority. Use the promo code majority at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/majority. Enter code majority at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/majority. Code is majority. We will put the link and information in the podcast and YouTube description. Also, sponsoring the program today is Nutrafol. I just had my annual physical with my doctor, and he's like, "Any supplement, anything you're taking?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm taking Nutrafol." He's like, "Really?" He was surprised. He says, "Does it work?" And I said, "It does. It's helping with my shedding." And he told me that his wife, her dermatologist recommended it to his wife.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "Is it working for her?" And he goes, "Yeah, it seems to be." He's
good.
a very skeptical guy. But I've noticed it dramatically in terms of the shedding. Nutrafol now offers hair growth supplements tailored to men at every age because the root causes of hair thinning change over time, and your routine should too. Nutrafol for men ages 18 to 49 help improve their hair growth and achieve thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months. New Nutrafol Men 50 Plus. I was not aware of that. I've been using the other one. The first and only hair growth product specifically formulated for men 50 plus. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. I got to try this 50 plus thing.
Is it butterscotch flavored?
That's the only way. You need to have like a second candy. I've had great experience. It's an old man joke.
Yes. Yeah.
But it has made a big difference. Like you get to be my age and you sort of neurotically check when you're in the shower. You come out, you look at your towel every time. Count. Anyways, I've had great experience. Em and I both know women who have had really good experience at this. You can feel great about what you're putting into your body since Nutrafol hair growth supplements are backed by peer-reviewed studies and NSF content certified. It's the gold standard and third-party certification for supplements. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed. Automated deliveries, free shipping to help keep you on track. Plus, with a Nutrafol subscription, you can save up to 20% and get added perks to support your hair growth journey. Start Nutrafol today. Make the hat optional. Visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code TMR10, all one word, for $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR10. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code TMR10, one word. Check the podcast and YouTube links, descriptions, I should say, for links, etc. All right, quick break. When we come back, Wally Kahn, multimedia reporter based in New York, covering state violence in working class America on the ground in Minneapolis, or what it was like there. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, the Majority Report. Joining us now, Wally Kahn, a multimedia reporter based in New York, covering state violence, working class America. Wally, thanks for joining us. And we should just say right up front, you got a little bit of a voice issue because of the tear gas as a little going away gift in Minneapolis. What was the circumstance of that?
Well, that was actually, since that tear gas incident, I've kept safe since then, but it's been like more than 8 days, respiratory problem. But that was at the Whipple Federal Building, where ICE agents come out in droves and tear gas protesters every hour, actually. And so that night, they started pelting, tear gas canisters at us and flashbangs. And I think all people were doing was that they were gathering around arriving ICE vehicles. And my mask was a little loose, and the density of the tear gas made it, impossible to do the work that I do. And it was blinding, and it was really painful.
What ostensibly is, I've seen tear gas in the context of protests that are, I think, like, authorities are afraid, like, oh, there's 10,000 people or 5,000 or 500 people who are coming to try and attack a federal building or are blocking, roads in the middle of a city. Like, what is the context, and like, what would be the value of just firing tear gas at people who are standing out in front of a detention facility?
Well, it's interesting because one of the days, some of the protesters doused the entranceway to Whipple with water, because a lot of these ICE agents are just like wearing Vans and like Converse, like canvas shoes, and they've slipped and fallen on their asses so many times. So one of the protest tactics is to pour water all over the entranceway where they come out of. And I want to reiterate, the ICE agents outnumber the number of protesters at Whipple. I mean, that on multiple nights, there had to be less than 100 people or less than like 150. And the ICE agents would come out from their cars where they were warming up in the parking lot and suit up, come out. And that day when they were pouring water, they got pissed. I mean, they came out, tear gassed a bunch of people, pepper sprayed, pepper balled people, which is, solidified pepper spray, less lethals that are put in paintball guns and shot out at, on people. And actually, there have been a couple of blindings out of LA recently related to pepper ball. But yeah, I mean, their justification is that people are blocking the roadway when they really aren't. I mean, we're not seeing like them actually stop any vehicles. The cars still drive in and out of the Whipple Federal Building. There hasn't been that much impediment. Personally, I probably only saw one protester ever pop a tire of an ICE vehicle, and that wasn't even at the federal building.
Okay. All right. So with that said, tell us what else you saw while you were there. At what point did you get back? Because we had the big general strike on Friday, 50,000 or more people, at the very least, protesting, never mind necessarily participating in the strike. Give us a sense of like what you saw when you were last there.
So I left right before the general strike, the day of, actually. I talked to a bunch of people on the ground during that day, and also who was there yesterday. But there was this general idea from a bunch of reporters that I was talking to that, protesters were standing there, they weren't doing anything. And you see this pattern emerge out of Minneapolis, and I was there for almost 2 weeks, right after the killing of Renee Good, is that, they'll go up to protesters and say, back up, and, they'll say, don't move, or they'll say, move away, and they give these like contradictive like instructions where you're like destined to fail if you're just in proximity of an ICE agent. And so there's a lot of tear gas that they love using, but at the same time, they're shooting off less lethals at protesters, and some of my friends and colleagues had gotten injured. But by and large, I think the retaliation against reporters has gotten more obvious on the ground. Just yesterday, even at the Home Suites Hotel, where the Department of Prisons pointed a gun at two reporters, Ethan Noah Roy and Sean Beckner Carmichael. And, they kept asking everybody, show me your fucking press badge. But they'll also say things like, we don't give a fuck if you're press. And so there is this very mixed messaging that actually really puts a lot of reporters and protesters at danger because they don't know what their instructions are. And even if they are, they're like not legal instructions. They're not breaking any laws.
There's this notion that these are, they keep saying you're impeding an operation or law enforcement operation. That was also the excuse that they used to justify the killing of Alex Preddy. Can you describe what a so-called operation looks like with ICE? Because it seems like it's they're occupying the city, so the entire area is supposedly an operation.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. A lot of the enforcement at one point was concentrated on East Lake Street. And, you could literally just see them going past all the time. They'd be stopping at these restaurants or turning into a neighborhood to terrorize people and to gas them when, they blow their whistles or they are followed. But, I just want to remind, your viewers that a lot of this language that we're seeing come out of the White House and DHS is couched in the NSPM 7 memo that dictated a very broad set of rules for what could be counted as domestic terrorism. So I posted a video last week where me and another photographer were tracking ICE, and we were on the rapid response chats, and ICE jumps out of their car and they say, if you fuck around, you're going to get arrested. And the thing is, the one thing he said that caught my attention was at the end, he says that we've got your plate, we've got your name. It's going to be, I think he said something about there being a database. And in Maine, where there is an extensive ICE operation happening there right now, officers were seen talking about a database about people who are just filming. So when an ICE operation happens, they turn into a neighborhood, knock on doors, and they detain somebody, and they don't really check for papers. They're just like stopping people and just taking them. And so they see people filming as impeding on their operations, which is insane.
I think we actually have that video in Maine of the database, that exchange. It has been quite clear that they're videotaping. I mean, we know that Jonathan Ross, the killer of Renee Good, was videotaping her. And, you know, these guys are not doing it. Maybe some of them are for their like home movies, but they're doing it because they are intending to use this material at one point. Here's that exchange that you were talking about. This took place up in Maine, and you're saying you had a similar one in Minnesota. Let's watch this.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
We're videotaping you? Are you crazy?
That exchange is pretty revealing. I mean, regardless of questions of like, that doesn't seem terribly professional to be doing, et cetera, et cetera. He's telling the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
and that was consistent. What we saw on that videotape was consistent with what you experienced down in Minneapolis.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually video of that on my Instagram too. Like they literally get out of a car. I wasn't even driving. And they said, you know, we've got the plate, we've got the vehicle. So I don't think they're just making a database of people. And, you know, there has been so many reports of them using, you know, extremely flawed facial recognition AI to identify who's a migrant and who isn't. But the added aspect of that is that if they have a database of vehicles and plates, you know, it's kind of like the police's lien system, like when they can look up plates, but they actually need a reason to. These federal agents don't need a reason. And, you know, the risk is elevated for me because I'm like one of the few, you know, reporters on this beat who is a migrant. It was terrifying because it does raise questions about, you know, press freedom and like just stuff about the 14th Amendment. You know, people are getting arrested, pulled out of their cars simply for following ICE agents. But like, you know, there is nothing illegal about that.
Give me a sense of like, how much time did you spend with these rapid response networks in Minnesota, in Minneapolis? I wonder, what your impressions were of these networks, if they are networks. I mean, just how would you characterize what you're seeing there, and both from a sort of a tactical standpoint, and also just in terms of like the sentiment?
This is probably the most robust rapid response I've ever seen. What journalists do is very similar to what the rapid responders are doing, in the sense that they're spotting these vehicles, looking up the plates, and then, but the difference is rapid responders are almost always on a call on signal, and they're people doing plate checks and giving information about where exactly an ICE vehicle was spotted. And when you're out following them, there was a case where me and a couple of reporters spotted an ICE vehicle outside of a neighborhood, inside of a neighborhood called Longfellow. You know, we pull up next to the vehicle and he rolls down his window and he has a live headset on, but he's unmasked. So that sometimes means that they're a supervisor instead of just like a regular agent. And we asked, are you ICE? And he was like, none of your fucking business. And so we noticed that there was a cage fitted into the back and like lights, but also like this like front ram that people like law enforcement uses to do pit stops. And we ended up following this officer for 20 miles north of Minneapolis. And that's something that you see all the time as well, that a lot of these agents aren't even getting out of their car. They're just leading people on wild goose chases with no result. And it's scary because you have to wonder if that's a decoy. We end up driving 20 miles north of Minneapolis, and then a cop car starts following us, and the ICE agent peels off into the shoulder. And some of the rapid responders are telling me that sometimes ICE agents lead trackers and journalists on these chases to a county that's friendly to them, like where the sheriff is friendly to them, and have the cops deal with you. So there's an extreme elevated risk because I've seen ICE agents go into a neighborhood, throw tear gas, take people, beat people, tear gas, like pepper spray them when they're on the ground. And, there's nothing that people can really do except like throw snowballs and like scream at them, which are like, it's nothing compared to the domestic terrorism language that we're seeing come out of the White House. But that's what I've been seeing with rapid response, that people are constantly on the call. They're going to businesses to patrol, even at negative 35 wind chill weathers, to do foot patrol or to drive past businesses during opening and closing and during pickup and drop off time for schools. So we're seeing like one of the most organized, decentralized, hyper local rapid response that we really haven't seen like anywhere else. And a lot of that infrastructure is probably from 2020.
I've heard some very good stories about what happened in Charlotte, and that folks were very good about driving ICE out of there and making ICE leave before they had hit anything close to their quotas, et cetera, et cetera. Certainly, the invasion of Minneapolis was of a size, I think like sort of unprecedented size up to this point, anyways. But what is it? Do you have any sense of like what accounts for the superlatives you're suggesting about Minneapolis? Like what was it? Is there something unique to Minneapolis, or is it simply temporally speaking, we're at a point where people are a greater number of people are engaged? Is it the size of the city? Is there something, do you think, as, I don't know, a spirit in Minneapolis in terms of the community or the relationship between the immigrant population and other Minnesotans? What do you think it is?
I think a big part of it is that Minneapolis just can't catch a fucking break. I mean, the fact that Renee Good was killed so close to where George Floyd was murdered, there's so much anger that still lingers over that. And I think, the infrastructure is also good. First of all, it's actually really easy to get around in Minneapolis. If something like this happened in New York, to get from like the Bronx to like Jackson Heights is going to take 40 minutes. The thing about Minneapolis, the thing about these ICE raids is that if you're 5 minutes out from it, you're able to do whatever your role is, which is either you try to follow them or honk or warn, or if you're a reporter, go and chase after it and document it. And the other thing is that there are a lot of people who care, and how emboldened right-wing figures are in flooding the zone in Minneapolis, and how emboldened they are to do a pro-ICE march and try to burn a Quran like Jake Lang tried to do. And he's tried to do this in Dearborn, Michigan. This is not his first time. He's always foiled. And I think a big part of this is that people there understand that more than 90% of Somalis in Minneapolis are citizens. So even from a numbers perspective, the federal enforcement is so brazen, so much of this has this authoritarian aesthetic to it, that there's so much spectacle that I think people can't look away. One of Renee Good's neighbors was a Trump voter, and one of the most interesting videos I've seen out of it was an interview with him where he expresses extreme doubts about his belief. And so if this is moving the needle for conservatives, I think you know, you can tell whatever you're seeing on the news, it's so much worse on the ground.
Yeah, can you?
I just wanted to on the 90% thing.
Okay.
Because I think this is interesting because I've read theories that the administration did not realize there were 90% of Somalis. I mean, we laugh about it, but I mean, this is not hard to believe that 90% were citizens. And so you have a population where you've got these ICE thugs going in there and they assume they're just looking for Somalis.
Yep.
But 9 out of 10 of those are citizens, not legally in the country, not documented, not going through a process. They're citizens. And so, I mean, it's probably 90% of the people they're harassing there and going on and thinking that they've got like a win, turns out to be citizens. And these are all people with families. These are all people who are, integrated into the community, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, this is, I wonder how much that like sort of the tripwires they're hitting are pulling the community together and tighter than one would have expected. I mean, even prior to these multiple killings, murders.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I think a big part of this too is that we have to be realistic about this resistive movement, which is that, we didn't see the world, the country rally around the killing of Jamie Alanis Garcia out of California when he fell off a 30-foot building when he was chased by ICE. We didn't see nationwide rallying around Silverio Gonzalez, who was killed in Chicago, and there was footage. Even for Silverio's killing, it was such strikingly similar circumstances to Renee Good. I think a big part of this, and PBS NewsHour actually did an interview with a St. Paul cafe owner or something, or somebody who goes to the cafe where there are, paintings of Renee Good on the wall. And she very blatantly said that, and then paraphrasing here, that she could ideate or conceptualize the sort of violence that ICE is doing because Renee was a citizen and she was a white mother. So when we look at this like these responses to these social movements, I think it's like really important. And, and as a migrant, I've seen this sort of response where people are so much more sympathetic. The press is so much more sympathetic to Minneapolis because a citizen got killed. And I think implicitly there's this idea that if somebody's undocumented and they weren't even supposed to be here in the first place, then the death is no big deal because it was supposed to happen. So I think that's kind of my take on Minneapolis, but the resistance there is no less robust for it.
It's a great point. You mentioned that there are some areas where maybe they drive to a police precinct or part of Minnesota where there's more sympathetic police. What has been your experience? What have other journalists and activists experienced with Minneapolis PD in particular as well, in resistance to ICE?
So it's interesting. Minneapolis PD, there was that night they shot a man in the leg, and people were taking to the streets, and I remember this huge presence of Minneapolis PD and protesters shouting that they haven't changed since George Floyd was killed, that they think that, I think one protester was like, you think you're fucking better than these ICE agents, you're just more of the same. There has been a very heavy MPD response, and and I think a big part of it too is that they don't really know what to do. They kind of stand around. They're also tear gassed by ICE agents. It happened in Chicago too. But by and large, I think maybe ideologically, a lot of these cops are more similar to an ICE agent than they are to Alex Preddy or Renee Good. So you're seeing MPD still enact violence and arrest people in Minneapolis under the guise of law and order. But, at the same time, Jacob Frey goes on TV and says a couple of bad words and they're making, New York Times profiles on him. So
my other question for you is schools. We're hearing reports about ICE agents stationing outside of schools in Minnesota. I mean, I'm just to plainly say what it is. It's masked men, unidentified men, stationed outside of schools and kidnapping children. This is from the party that says they care about protecting children from abuse. So how widespread is this practice based on your 2 weeks in the area?
Pretty prevalent. I mean, to a point where drop off and pickup time is a really tense moment for a lot of parents and a lot of citizens and a lot of children too. They're stopping by at parks, nearby kindergartens, nearby schools, and churches. And I remember going to a church in St. Paul where the kids are just like looking out the window and, there's an ICE vehicle just like literally a block away, just sitting there. And they'll make like heart signs at whoever takes a photo at them. And so there's like this aspect of like, they're just waiting there. Sometimes they don't even do anything, right? Like the day Renee Good was killed, there was this huge altercation in one of the high schools in Minneapolis. And I think a lot of people that I've spoken to on the ground have told me that like, yeah, they wonder if, their school district is going to go online. And as somebody who went to school during COVID, it is just not the same. Like you're missing out on a lot. And we're seeing that. We're seeing ICE presence at schools and churches. And the community response is really just robust in the sense that there's always a bunch of people there during pickup and drop off time.
What else, as we wrap up here, what else do you think we should understand about what's happening there? Is there anything that we've sort of left on the table, or do you have any thoughts as to what's going, where ICE is headed next, both either geographically or in terms of their tactics?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's enforcement already happening in Maine, Portland, Maine. I think the numbers are, I haven't checked it in a while, but in 3 days they took like 100 people. And that's a lot. And I think, we need to have this sort of like the same reaction Americans had for Renee Good and Alex Preddy getting killed should be scaled up to the 800 people missing from Alligator Alcatraz. Like what happened to that? Like, I feel like we just moved on, that's a big deal. And I think that, the Trump administration mentioned that California and New York is next. I've spoken to a lot of folks in Minneapolis who are both citizens and also Somali migrants who believe that this will end in the midterms. I don't know about that. I think we're in for many, many years of this. I think the window has moved. And by and large, despite the resistance that we're seeing, Americans could possibly get used to this. And I think that's a very scary thought that people aren't considering, that this could be the thing that happens for many years and the midterms aren't going to save you. Maybe it could be a mitigating factor, but this sort of enforcement is exactly like ICE is doing exactly what they were designed to do. And there's no amount of training. There's no amount of those 7 Democrats who voted for more funding for ICE for training or whatever. It's so ham-fisted. It's so brain dead. Like we can't vote this out. And I think the resistance needs to really ask itself what it's willing to put on the line for an occupational force in their city.
Wally Khan, we will link to your Instagram channel and
Some great photography on there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
great
really
work.
appreciate you coming on and giving us an update, and hope that your respiratory things get a little better. Thanks so much for coming on.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Let's play a little. I want to play a couple of clips of what took place on Friday.
Yeah.
By the time we had gotten off there, things had really started to pick up in terms of like the strike. It's hard to assess what a general strike looks like in terms of what's not happening, right? You can look at numbers after the fact and say like, oh, nobody shopped that day. One day is a quick blip. People didn't come into work. And you would think in the context of like public demonstration with temperatures at anywhere from 10 to 10 below, that's cold. Like that's cold.
That's filled in your bones cold.
That's it takes you, I mean, I'll walk to work in the teens or the early 20s, but it takes me like half a block until like I start to realize like, oh, even my knees are cold right now, even with my like lined pants.
Yeah, as a North Dakotan, I can say that's even cold for people from that part of the world.
But here are images. This is on Friday, the day before, less than 24 hours before Preddy was murdered. Killed.
What murdered?
I mean, I don't know what the legal term would be.
Lock me up if you can't say murdered.
But here's aerial shots of this. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's crazy.
This is from BT Newsroom.
There's no audio on this.
There's no audio on this. It's just drone footage. But this goes on, and then it goes around the corner, and there's even bigger numbers.
Right.
It really...
And there are also, I'm sure, people that were striking that just, stayed home.
Well, exactly.
Like,
I mean,
right.
this is I mean, that's the thing is like, this is a protest here. Here is another image. Let's go to the, okay, you can see around the corner, and it just keeps going down. And then it turns the corner from there too, I think. But let's go to that other shot, and you can hear people chanting. And again, this is another different angle. This a different portion of that protest. They're cheering. What do you want? Ice out. When do you want it? Now.
It's amazing. This general strike stuff, you're hearing more and more talk about this spreading across the country, and I really, really do hope it does, because
there were people protesting in Iowa over the weekend. Prior to, I don't know if it was in the wake of the Preddy killing, in Idaho, in Boise, Idaho, I think it was actually. There was like 3,500 people calling for a general strike. I mean, you're just seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, and it's just really, I mean, with the No Kings demonstrations were, I think, a good place for people to get their energy out. But this is a step in the direction of like an actual uprising and changing of our system, because it involves.
I just want to say real quick how you know is because Tim Walz and Mayor Fry didn't support it.
It is a moment of like both of class consciousness and using that power to challenge the authority, and seeing these things as inextricably linked. Like, we've been told for a long time that you could, for some reason, separate identity politics or white supremacy from capitalism when you're standing up against it. But you're seeing that white supremacy and capitalism are intrinsically linked. And the systems of economic domination are similarly the systems of racial and ethnic supremacy that show themselves in a variety of different forms. But in this instance, it's immigration law. It's what Wally was talking about, the concept of citizenship, how we have tiers for people's rights and what they are allowed to have in this country based on pretty arbitrary kind of definitions, and make it very difficult for certain people to be citizens because we want to, that they're more easily exploitable in that way. And so I that is a very hopeful development out of this weekend, in spite of, obviously how horrible everything is.
Nameless in Minnesota says, keep in mind, many of us did not go to the protest because we were still patrolling our neighborhoods.
Right.
Again, the numbers extraordinary there. And I think we're going to see more of this, obviously, in the wake of the killing of Preddy. All right, we're going to take a break, head into the so-called fun half, wherein we will play more footage out of Minnesota. Also, we're going to talk about how things have changed dramatically in terms of the vote. I mean, on Friday, we were saying, in regards to those 7 Democrats who voted for the funding, and it's really, let's be clear, Hakeem Jeffries did not whip those people. Now, he may not have any control of what Jared Golden does, because Jared Golden's retiring. Although,
Make a point.
Well, I got to imagine, if I had to bet, Jared Golden is not going to have a job that has nothing to do with Congress when he goes into the private sector.
No. He's
like,
the co-chair of the Blue Dogs, and he's a military guy, right?
Of course. This guy's not going to go like, you know what? I've always wanted to pursue painting, or I'm going to do some local, I'm going to do cabinetry work. I'm going to, one more year of my apprenticeship. No, I would bet you just about everything I own that Jared Golden is going to have some job where he is going to utilize his access to Congress, lobbying, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Hakeem Jeffries has the ability to make that very difficult. I mean, presumably he's going to be Speaker of the House come January, and they can make all sorts of rules about, like, you know what? Jared Golden, we don't have enough credentials for you to come on the Hill, whatever it is. There are ways. We should also say, like, Rosa DeLauro sits on the chair of the Appropriations Committee. There were ways in which to make the DHS funding more prominent rather than to roll it into the minibus. And we were saying on Friday, these people who are voting for this, it's as if they think that, like, they're voting on what ICE has done. And that's it. That's going to be end of story. As opposed to, like, we're only a year out and we've seen what ICE has become in that year. Where do you think they're going to be in 10 months? This is just the beginning of this, folks. This is just the beginning of this. There's going to be more people they kill. I mean, the concentration camps they have set up, and we're going to play some footage of what's going on in, like, Texas and what's going on. I mean,
we have no idea how many people are dead in those camps. No idea.
I know people representing people in Berlin, New Hampshire, appropriately, where these are basically like semi-torture facilities, because they have a lot of people who are within process. In other words, I am getting my green card, or I am being adjudicated for refugee status, or asylum status, or I have been in an administrative process. In other words, they are here legally. They are not citizens, but they are here legally. They are within a legal process. And what happens is ICE picks them up, shoves them into these concentration camps. We'll play footage of some that's leaked out. Subjects them to torturous conditions as a game of attrition, essentially. Let's play this number 16. A game of attrition so that they can get these people to say, you know what, I give up any rights I have to the process I'm already engaged in. What is it?
This is 16?
No. I want the, where's the footage from inside the camp? We don't have that? Okay.
I think
I thought that was where people are sleeping on the.
This is an ICE agent admitting what you're saying about legal picking up people who are in the process.
Okay, let's play this then. Okay.
Like, she's legal. Like, she has a work permit. Yeah, but that doesn't make her legal. So anybody who has a pending application, they get a work permit, okay? Or pending court proceedings. Because of that, so our direction right now, I'll just kind of explain this to you. Our direction right now is to take any of those kind of people into custody so they can get through their court cases faster.
Okay, so he's claiming that we get their court cases faster. She's got her work permit. She is in pending process. They are bringing people in, and the guy says, so they get their court cases faster. No, what it is, now let's play that footage of them lying on the floor in the facility. This is footage that has been leaked
22.
out. This is footage that is leaked out. And of course, it's very difficult to get this kind of footage.
It's in Baltimore.
This is in Baltimore, in the Baltimore field office. These are the conditions that people are living in. Now, in Berlin, New Hampshire, my understanding is they don't have blankets, but they put them in scrubs, and we're dealing with temperatures of like 10 degrees outside. If you don't put heat on in these facilities, you're talking about 30, 35 degrees, but play this footage. So now we know they're taking people who are in process. They have a work permit. They're waiting on a hearing, whatever it is. They put them in these type of facilities, essentially torture or abuse, wherever that line is. I don't think it makes a difference, frankly. And the idea is like, it's up to you. You really want to wait around for your court case? Because that may not come for a while.
Miren cómo nos tienen aquí. Miren qué migración cómo nos tienen. Y gente que estamos legales, gente que no estamos legales, gente que está perdiendo su familia, nos están secuestrando, nos tienen en un depósito aquí en Baltimore, nos tienen en la 31 Huskin. Baltimore. Los golpearon a un señor. Ya no aguantamos, nos tienen aquí con más de 10 días sin bañarnos y aguantando hambre.
So that's what's going on here.
I can't translate all that. The last thing was about hunger.
All right. Well,
yeah, we'll have more to say in the other half.
The other half.
Yeah.
Formerly fun half. But this is what's going on. So people should understand this is what's happening. And all right. Well,
was it? I mean, what did we? I can't remember if it's just like something I watched myself, or if we covered it on the show. Did we cover the story? Someone, a lawyer was saying how a mother had to suck the pasta off, or the pasta sauce off. Yes, of every PBS. Because they have no baby food. Suck because the child can't digest the pasta sauce. Suck all of the sauce, but with her mouth, off of pieces of pasta to feed to children.
Concentration camps.
Yep.
Not metaphor. Description.
No. Definitionally.
Lastly, let's just read this from Midwest Leftists. Here from Minnesota, if you're wanting to read this during the show so people get a sense of what the environment ICE is creating, we are white Midwestern. The violence is so egregious that the children are in no way shielded from our reality. Our 7-year-old son, knowing the dangers they pose, came home and told us, if ICE comes to my school, I will protect my cousin, 5 years old, because she has more life to live. Our neighbor hasn't sent their 5-year-old to school for 2 weeks because they're terrified of their child being taken at the bus stop. My partner works for the school district, and ICE is scoping out the all the bus stops to take kids for bait. My partner's coworker was also disappeared overnight, now leaving his wife as the sole provider for 2 daughters, one of them requiring brain surgery as she suffers from seizures, which was the main reason they came to the United States. He was shipped to Texas in less than 24 hours. All right, we're going to head into the fun half of the program. You know the deal. Join the majority-report.com. Also, justcoffee.coop. Use the coupon code majority, get 10% off. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Lek Media universe?
Yeah, Hassan joined us on the Jacobin show last week to talk about who's more democratically responsive to the outcries of the people they represent, Mohammed bin Salman or Chuck Schumer. And you have to tune in to see who we decided on. And I don't think this past weekend has changed that calculation. Check it out, Jacobin Show. Go subscribe to Jacobin Meg on YouTube.
All right, quick break, then fun half.
Three months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false. No, I'm sorry. Women's.
Stop talking for a second. Now let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go start watching.
Libertarians. They're so stupid, though. Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering. I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-35-501. 1/2. 3/8.
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6, 5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
You can call it satire. Sam goes to satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the weak being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. We are back. Emma Vigeland, Sam Seder. Thanks for joining us in the
in the
So,
funhouse.
Uday and Kusei Lutnick, please God, make the F half fun again. Aaron from Germany. Is my hair thinning? Of course it is. Yes. Getting to that age. I mean, it's not dramatic, but I notice it. But I mean, relative to from when I was, 25.
Now you got to hang on to that.
Well, believe me, that's the thing. I know that's.
You're like, it's my best asset right now.
It's like I'm holding on by a thread, and it's like, but that's about it. All right, well, let's get back into this. I don't want to make too much of this, but there is a change that we have seen in the wake of this Preddy killing, and it consists of 2 or 3 different elements. One, it has made it impossible for the Senate Democrats to pass DHS funding as it was planned 24 hours ago, or I should say 72 hours ago. The other thing that we're seeing is an emboldened call for accountability. We're going to play that in a moment. And then we also are seeing some internal conflicts within the administration over this.
Stephen Miller, there was just a throwaway line in the Wall Street Journal article today about how, there's a feeling he may have overstepped. I mean, he's clearly.
And we have indication of that too. We'll get to that in a moment.
This. Yep.
And there's also indication of some Republicans, some small minority of Republicans, realizing this is not helpful to them. But let's start here. Here is J.B. Pritzker, obviously running for president, a billionaire, but also governor of Illinois, understanding that you've got to confront this stuff to the extent that they can. Credit for Pritzker being one of the early Democratic lawmakers to, I should say, politicians, to tell people aggressively go out and videotape.
Yep.
I don't know that we wouldn't see what we see, but I think it certainly gave people a license to go out and do this. And of course, again, the videotaping of Preddy's murder was what really made it impossible for DHS to get their lies out first. Here he is, and I don't know if we have heard such an explicit threat by a Democratic politician in terms of accountability. And we've been waiting for this, and I hope we see this we start to see this from federal lawmakers. Good.
What do you think? What do you do when the federal government is essentially obstructing justice at the state level like this? You have your database, but what can you do to hold people like this officer and others to account at this point?
First of all, it's more than a database. We created something called the Illinois Accountability Commission. It's headed by retired federal judges who are gathering testimony, including video, including, as you said, a database of all the information that we have. Why? Because we are going to hold them accountable. And yes, it's true. When Trump and J.D. Vance are saying that these federal officers have absolute immunity, they do not. But they do if the president is going to pardon them or not hold them accountable while he's president. You know what? He's not going to be president forever. And having the information in order to come after those people, to make sure that they are held accountable when the time comes. I know it's not good enough. I'd like to be able to hold them accountable today, but it is true that the Supremacy Clause makes that very difficult for states. So we're gathering the information because in 2029, in January, Gregory Bovino is going to have to answer for his actions. Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, and frankly, the line officers that are abusing people and in some cases shooting people in the face, they're going to be held accountable one way or another when this administration goes away.
That's important. that there are markers that are put down right now, whether they're line officers or whether they're those in power, that we're going to hold you accountable.
So naming Bovino and Nome, we are going to hold you accountable. Not and importantly, not just the line officers.
Yep.
Saying that has the capacity to put a chilling effect on their actions. The problem is that Pritzker should not be alone in this. That this should actually really be what the national leadership does.
Federal lawmakers, we need to hear this.
This is, I mean, for that reason, this is where federal Democrats should be stepping up, and that's not happening.
I mean, we should be hearing from senators, congresspeople making announcements to ICE officers, CPB, middle management, get your suits pressed because you're going to be coming in front of us.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be taking your names down. And this is the other thing about, we're going to start to hear more requirements for ICE reforms in this legislation battle that we're going to see. Understand that ICE has all the money they need. They have slush funds. They're not going to be shut down if the budget doesn't go forward. And none of these reforms of ICE should be anywhere near what the last word is on ICE when Democrats are actually in power. The agency needs to be gone, and it needs to be put under the auspices. DHS is a problem, period. But any of these type of enforcement, anything that portends to be law enforcement should be under the auspices of the Department of Justice.
Exactly.
So that there are built-in safeguards and accountability. But putting that aside for the time being, getting their masks off so that when someone like Pritzker goes on television and says, we're going to hold you to account, that each one of those officers understand that every time they go out and do any type of enforcement action, there's 10, 50, 5, I don't know how many people are videotaping them. And their faces and their actions are being recorded, and their identities are going to be known. Because they should have the fear that they're trying to inject into the citizenry and to just the population in general in this country, that we know who you are and we're going to come and get you. Because there's less of them. There's less of them, and they're doing worse things. And so if their people are out of power, they cannot be protected. And so that is an important, every time an ICE guy does anything, it should be in the back of their head, I don't know if I'm going to get away with this, in a way that they think they're going to get away with it now.
And that is why it appears like, the Stephen Miller playbook of backing them up and having them escalate is what he centers on there, or what their modus operandi is because they want them to continue to be masked, and they want them to continue to use a show of force to say, we are above this kind of thing. They are banking on the weakness of the national Democratic leadership in that way. And they're fleeing them out of state after they murder people.
Yep.
This is the second time they've done that. They have the press was able to identify Jonathan Ross as the killer of Renee Good, but there were 5 guys just beating up on Preddy, and what Bovino told to CNN was, that they're out of state. They've been reassigned, aka hiding from police in the state as law enforcement.
So Chuck Schumer's plan up until 72 hours ago was to take the House bill and to essentially release 7 Democrats in the Senate to prevent a filibuster of that House bill, which is a minibus funding thing. You'll recall a couple of weeks ago, half of the government agencies, essentially, there was a bill that passed that would provide funding for them. There was a bill that came out of the House that included funding for DHS, amongst other spending priorities. And the idea is Chuck Schumer really wants to make sure that no one knows there's a Democratic Party, that any of these people exist or do anything until election time, where he's hoping people are just going to vote against Republicans. Assuming, which I think is quite an assumption, that there are going to be elections that are going to be recorded and take place in a way that will be completely normal.
I mean, Bondi is trying to get the voter rolls of Minneapolis and using that as leverage over the occupation. What do you think the agenda is when you're looking at these 20 states and they're targeting blue states specifically?
This is all about trying to find different levers in which to prevent the midterm elections from turning out to one where the Republicans lose the House and they lose the Senate. So this is Chuck Schumer's strategy. Jeffries largely following a similar strategy in the House by not whipping votes. Remember, it was 220 to 213 was the final tally. Was that what it was?
Yes,
in
it
the
was
House?
220.
220 to 213. And 7 of those votes came from
207.
207 to 220. Now, if those 7 votes go the other way, it's 214 to 213, the thing sinks. I don't know if you can control Jared Gold. I don't know. But there was no attempt to do so.
Maybe, say something about it.
Yeah, exactly. But Chuck Schumer thought he was going to squeak by and get this, and his plans have been ruined. And here is Ed Markey Saturday, right after the killing. Here's Ed Markey making it clear where he stood on this. Now, of course, I think he wasn't going to vote, but by coming out and doing this, it adds pressure, right? If all the Democratic senators, if 43 of them, or I should say, if 35 of them vote against the funding, you still get the funding bill. And if none of them say a word, it doesn't create the same amount of pressure. But if the ones who are voting against it start coming out, they're putting the pressure on any of those senators who would otherwise vote for it. Here's Markey on Saturday afternoon.
I'm in Boston, where I just finished a press conference with Middlesex County DA Marion Ryan. And I want to make one thing clear about what we witnessed in Minnesota today. This is more than just excessive force. It's excessive malice. It's murder. A man was shot while kneeling on the ground with his shirt pulled over his head and officers surrounding him. They continued to shoot and shoot as he lay motionless on the ground. ICE is a criminal organization, and those thugs have become as bad as the criminals they say they are supposed to be apprehending. They are murdering American citizens, terrorizing our communities, and calling anyone who dares to record them domestic terrorists. Not one more cent for DHS and ICE. We have the power to end this. I'm in Boston.
Okay, so understand, if you're, Catherine Cortez Masto or Jackie Rosen, and you say, we don't have really the power to stop this, or Chuck Schumer says, we don't have the power to stop this, well, that's not what Ed Markey says. And shortly after Markey came out, now I'm not saying this is what did it, we have that statement from Masto and okay, I put that in the thing. They both came out Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening and said they're not going to vote for this funding for ICE. So that was basically the end there.
And then you had Angus King also come out, independent from Maine, and these were the 3 that we're mentioning here. Angus King and then Rosen, Cortez Masto, among others, were the ones that voted for reopening the government last time. So they were the ones that were caved. They were the prime targets to usher this through, and the politics around it have changed.
And so the Schumer now is asking for Thune, who is the Senate Majority Leader, to pull DHS funding out of the minibus, as opposed to omnibus, bill for funding so that they can, sort of like hold that out. Thune claims he won't do it. We shall see.
But it's a miscalculate. I think if Thune follows through on this might be a rare miscalculation for Republicans, because we saw what the last government shutdown did, the longest in history.
100%.
The Republican, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was happening at the time. Of course, the Epstein files ended up, that vote happened as soon as the government reopened. So it's hard to draw a causal connection to one thing. But there's no doubt that that period, which involved the longest government shutdown in history, hurt the Republicans disproportionately and started this kind of almost lame duck period for Donald Trump, who over the weekend was sending out multiple paragraph-long truths about the construction of the White House ballroom, just to give people a sense of how his finger's on the pulse of the country right now. It's the politics around this have obviously changed, and the Democrats are being forced to respond.
And I will say this.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought on that point. If Thune keeps insisting that we're going to vote and not strip out DHS funding from the rest of the spending package, and that results in a partial government shutdown as opposed to stripping it out and dealing with it on its own, why would that not hurt the Republicans a second time? And then the central focus is going to be DHS and ICE and their abuses. And like Nate Cohn, we showed a little bit of this graph on Friday, the New York Times' analysis of Trump's coalition, but G. Elliott Morris, which is Strength in Numbers, is a really good Substack to follow polling information on. I really like his analysis. He was basically saying like Cohn's takeaway from Trump's coalition kind of falling apart here, and you having this reversal with non-white voters, with younger voters as well. He describes it as a de-alignment versus a realignment, meaning that the coalition of people that voted for Trump were largely like anti-establishment, angry people about the state of the economy, naturally, and then you had like the incompetence of the Kamala Harris campaign, unfortunately, who voted, and they were trying to punish the party for the economic situation that they were in, and then we had a lot of people stayed home for Gaza. So it's been very brittle in and of itself, but that it would be a mistake just to focus on the economics piece. Because when you look at where Trump has fallen on immigration, it's identical, his numbers, -17 on immigration and on the economy here. So, like, there's going to be this impulse that you'll see from Democrats to avoid the issue of his authoritarianism and ICE and just focus on the economy. Now they're almost being forced to talk about immigration if DHS funding is the central focus of a shutdown or of a spending debate. I mean, the Republicans are a little bit screwed on this subject regardless.
And the thing, the fact is that, like, you can talk about sort of these kitchen table issues, but people feel that already.
Yep.
And unless you're offering any type of like structural change, which they're not. Let's be clear, right? They're not. Now, if there was a proactive, programmatic, like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, but to remind people that they are materially suffering, they already know this. And we know they know this because the last time they pretended that people weren't, they lost in the election with Harris.
There's a quality to the way Josh Shapiro says, like, affordability, that says they're, as if they're telling us something, they're telling their donors that actually people really are screwed out there and we need to change our approach.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, you shouldn't ignore the deprivation. But to think that that's the only thing that you're going to bring to it, remind people that they're not feeling, they know they're not feeling, that's it's baked into the cake. But the idea here is saying that, like, we played clips of Chuck Schumer the other day up in, I can't remember what part of New York State it was, with Micron, rolling out something from the CHIPS Act. Syracuse. And Howard Lutnick was there taking all the credit. And apparently, this is very funny, following Chuck Schumer's, like, interrupting a reporter's question about the fact that Lutnick, the Trump administration, have rolled back some of the stuff from the CHIPS Act. All the Republicans voted against the CHIPS Act. Now they're taking credit for what the CHIPS Act's doing. Schumer interrupts that question and says, we're not going to talk about different sides and whatnot.
Time for bipartisanship.
Time for bipartisanship. We're going to do this together. Lutnick and the administration made a video of that entire Micron opening to promote it. And guess who was not in the video? Chuck Schumer. It's like honestly,
the video wasn't bipartisan.
I'm just trying to I can't even come up with an analogy of someone who has been doing this for so long, who is so blind to what is going on here. There is a very good argument that you should say to John Thune, yeah, don't strip DHS out of this, because guess what? We're not funding anything. Like, the idea of pretending that this is a government that is operating by rules and laws is out the window.
Even funding, they're not operating lawfully with rescissions. I mean, you could make that argument as well if you chose to make an argument. But
every time they engage in these processes, they are extending a legitimacy to this regime that is not warranted and undersells the danger that we're in at this point. I mean, we haven't even seen all of this funding come online yet. But for ICE, they haven't even been able to figure out what they're going to do with it. I mean, they're just coming up with new types of supposed non-lethal weapons to roll out.
QR codes for Bovino.
Oh my God, poor QR codes. It's just amazing how incompetent they are about this too, because which part of the party has been screaming from the rooftops that kitchen table issues and income inequality is the real problem, is a really, really major problem, and that the Democrats need to take it seriously? Oh, wait, it's been the Bernie Sanders wing of the party since 2016 on, and the squad and all that we're talking about income and wealth inequality and people's material conditions not being met. They get the poll tested results about how Kamala Harris, in large part, if you were to draw one thing, it's the economy not doing well, and that's why that election was lost. Of course, there's Gaza. Of course, there's other issues, her gender and race, etc. Whatever. But it's the economy. And they go, okay, even though we were the ones that were attacking the left on really hollow identity politics grounds, in fact, doing a disservice to the work of anti-racists and people who are trying to make a change in the society by
damaging those efforts irrevocably,
by using it as a cudgel to hit your opponent with in a cynical way to obscure the fact that you're not really that this campaign is trying to tamp down a populist uprising within the Democratic Party. Now they're like, we are only going to talk about the economy and kitchen table issues, but we're not going to say what we're going to do about it. Bernie was saying we got to tax billionaires, Medicare for all. We'll just talk about affordability, and apparently we'll just abandon the issues of racial and racial struggle and civil rights movements that are happening around the country right now. They go in the exact opposite direction. Instead of, how about we merge these two things and talk about them as they are, inextricably linked: income inequality, capitalism, and also white supremacy and racism. They're coming together, and Minnesotans understand that. That's what the general strike was about. It was a multiracial coalition of citizens that were trying to stand up to authoritarianism, and the party's like, let's just focus on class now. Or not even class. Let's just focus on the economy.
Affordability.
Well, yeah, focus. That's the thing, is they're not focusing on class.
I know.
Nothing. It's all just this sort of general sort of notion of things seem to be bad. We just want to remind you of that. But let's look at what this is the tale of sort of two different retreats here. Put up this tear sheet, number 29. Minnesota Star Tribune, Chris Maidel. I don't know much about this guy's run. This is number 29. He was running for governor in the Republican primary in Minnesota. And now I think this guy realizes, I don't want to waste my time. Because it doesn't matter if I win here. But he quits the Republican race. Scroll up a little bit. He announces that he's quitting the race today, saying he cannot support the National Republican stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. He's basically saying, I got to leave the party because things are getting so bad. What's going on now? He is a Minneapolis attorney who said, I originally stated the goal. He had originally supported the stated goals of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Minnesota, including the deportation of undocumented immigrants with serious criminal records, including, like, wait, what was that? That was what the whole claim was from the beginning. And incidentally, that's exactly what Obama did and Biden did. So we should tell you that, like, this is no magic panacea to deal with your immigration problem. It didn't work. But it's expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Now, I can understand it. If you are a Republican running in a Republican race, how you don't see these things until it's super explicit. But if you are a Democrat and you voted on Thursday of last week to fund this agency, and then within 4 days, you have to
here it is.
Send a letter from to your constituents.
Tom Suozzi, representing districts on Long Island, New York, one of the 7 House Democrats who voted for the DHS bill, which increased funding for them.
But he's not just one of the 7 who voted for that bill. He has been brought out and promoted by the Democratic Party.
Oh, yeah.
As being the visionary for the future, the template for what Democrats should look like across the country. This is a guy who's like, I've got to, I'm in a purple district.
Right.
I got conservatives.
Very
I've got
pro-cop district.
I've got to, law enforcement, blah, blah, blah. I've got to see, the reason why you other Democrats don't understand what's going on is because you're not connected to your constituency like I am.
Yeah.
You don't understand what's going on the ground. You're deluded. You're living in these blue,
enclaves with all the
enclaves
people.
on the hill and
Right.
without the people, and you don't understand what the real people are going through.
You're in
blah,
a
blah,
blue
blah.
state, by the way, buddy.
And this guy does not have the capacity to see that he had to do a 180-degree turn within 4 days of voting for it. Not just 4 days of being voted for it, being one of the deciding votes on this. Like, the most important, this isn't like, 400 other people were voting for it, so I voted for it, now I feel bad about it, I just went along to get along. No, you had to be so conscious of this vote to know that you were the difference. You were less than, almost like 1.5% of that was in play to make this pass in the House. And then 4 days later, I failed to view the DHS funding vote as a referendum on the illegal and immoral conduct of ICE in Minneapolis.
Well, to be fair, but was Renee Good killed after this vote? Yeah. Oh, wait! No! It was before this. So who could have seen a day, 48 hours after, I'm gotta stop yelling, that they kill somebody else on camera?
I hear the anger from many of my constituents, and I take responsibility for that. Like,
Resign.
How silent were those constituents in those 4 days?
You know what? But you know what this is, though? This isn't even like this is. This is Jeffries' fault just as much as Suozzi. You know why? Because they didn't pick these Democrats out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They didn't pick these Democrats out of nowhere. This is what they do all the time. They offer, are you in a purple district? Are you in a frontline district? Let's data focus this test, based on past available data instead of having a unified front and leading with a message about ICE. They picked 7 districts. They didn't want to whip votes against them. And they were like, okay, like we can live with this because this is going to pass anyway. And so but now they're facing the immediate blowback because someone was describing it in our IMs and I lost it, but it was a really well said thing. Oh, here it is. Lord Neekin, the 7 Dems who voted for the funding gladly took the rotating villain role, but the carousel has stopped and now they're panicking. That's what it feels like.
And he writes, the senseless and tragic murder of Alex Preddy underscores what happens when untrained federal agents operate without accountability. Where's the accountability for Jonathan Ross? I mean, where was Suozzi in the past couple of weeks when Bovino was out there saying, we're not allowing an investigation, where the person who started, the FBI agent who tried to investigate that shooting has to leave the FBI. Where is he when the number 2 at the Department of Justice is going like, we are investigating. We're investigating Renee Good. Where was he during this? How blinkered is he? He's not paying attention to the news? Or is he's saying like, well, I hadn't heard from my constituents. I mean, my point being that they sell us, these guys sell us their votes based upon some notion of competence. You people are unserious. You do not understand what is out there. You get this from Iglesias, you get it from all these types.
Yeah.
You don't get what's out there. You don't understand the desire for law enforcement that's out there. We've got to be tough, blah, blah, blah. This is not a law enforcement vote because these people are not law enforcement. Their funding does not come through law enforcement in this country, which is the Department of Justice. They are some type of like hybrid of national security, secret militia.
Klan.
And so the failure for them to understand this rises up to Chuck Schumer, through Jeffries, all of them. Or the failure for them to understand that people
coming.
see this.
But how do you, the incompetence of not knowing what's coming after
Exactly.
Renee, like,
If you take a
I was
vote when
waiting.
you've got 180 degrees it 4 days later,
Dude.
you don't know what you're doing.
Medell, that Chris, the guy, I was waiting to see if the Minnesota Star Tribune pointed this out. 2 weeks ago, he was offering legal help to the ICE to Ross, who killed Renee Good. 2 weeks ago.
And this dude's a Republican.
Republican.
I mean, he's a Republican. So like,
there it is. January 7th. It's been less than a month and he was already offering legal counsel for Jonathan Ross. And the Republicans like, I don't know if I can be in this party anymore.
A mother shot in the face with stuffed animals in the glove compartment. And Bill Ackman did the same thing. Bill Ackman this weekend being like, well, we got to wait for all the facts. Bill Ackman, less than 24 hours after Renee Good was shot in the face, donated $10K to Ross's GoFundMe.
And I'm just still wondering what my Senate Democratic friends, what is, I don't know why I'm talking like that, but I'm just pissed. What it gives them the confidence. I think I'm a lawmaker now.
Bernie.
What
is
gives
Emma
them-
hanging out with senators? What's going on?
Look, I caught it immediately. What gives them the confidence that Schumer is going to be able to lead these negotiations as minority leader? In a way that benefits them? Like, what evidence is there that he can continue in this manner? There has to be some sort of change. It's unbelievable.
If you have leadership that cannot see 7 days out, like, I mean, and this is what we were saying on Friday. Those Democrats who voted for ICE, they don't own ICE up to that point. They own ICE over the next 11 months. I mean, obviously more than that. But the point being, what is the value of leadership that can't even see 4 days out?
Money, connection to donors. That's why we have the leaders we do in the House and the Senate, is because post Citizens United, we need money men instead of people who know politics.
Like, I mean, think of the iceberg that I mean, they are driving us into. It is. I mean, both. Never mind as a political matter, you know, electoral politics, but this is real. What ICE is doing is real. They had a choice after Renee Good. Yeah. We need to pull back, guys, or we need to double down, guys, because we got to push this to the Insurrectionist Act. I mean, this is not like you got National Guard activated by Waltz out there who's handing out coffee to protesters, but they're wearing yellow vests over their fatigues. They're doing that because they want to make it clear they're on a different team than those other guys with fatigues and weapons. I mean, you see where this is starting to go, right? Like, we got to make sure our uniforms are differentiated from their uniforms.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Bad training.
Well, that's what Cory Booker would say. We've got to fund their training more.
It's like
the guy that killed Renee Good was a multi-year veteran.
But, okay, so was this guy. But what training? Let's assume. I mean, I'm obviously, but I think the training thing needs to be sort of like okay, they all get better trained, but the problem is you have too much money, too many resources, too many agents for the job they're being assigned, if we're to believe that's what their job is. I mean, the supposed hardened criminals who are not within our legal system that they're coming out for, we saw Joe Biden deport millions of people. Barack Obama deport millions of people. ICE ran out of targets on day one, if we were to believe what their agenda was.
We're going to play a clip from one of the camps in Texas at one point, built by Obama.
Let's do
that.
Yeah. Just set this up. This is an attorney who has been representing clients in one of these concentration camps in Texas.
Dilley, Texas, south of San Antonio. This particular camp was built in 2014 under the Obama administration. Then Biden shut it down in 2024. And then because it's there for family detention in particular. And the Trump administration obviously reopened it. So this is an immigration lawyer. These are two clips. He was going there to visit one of his clients. Let's play the first one before this. 20, yeah. So when he was there meeting with a client, he was kind of told he had to leave and chased out of the camp, the detention center, concentration camp, and he was recording screams from inside, and you'll hear what those screams are. But it's a libertad. I don't speak Spanish, but it let us go, and I think freedom or liberty. But you'll hear Sorry.
Libertad.
Libertad. Thank you. These are children's screams.
I'm outside. I'm outside.
You're not allowed.
It doesn't say out here. And I've just been ordered to leave the premises. And she's yelling at me right now. So I'm going to head back to my car and try and keep you abreast of the situation.
All right, let's go to the second video here. So this is the facility, by the way, that Liam, the boy in the blue hat that was photographed. I'm sorry, I have his name here. Liam, I'm sorry, I forget his last name. But this is where Liam Ramos and his father are being held. And so I think it seems like the other folks being held in this camp got word that this was like kind of a bit of a national outrage, and they were staging a protest in support of him and trying to get the word out there.
And I think this lawyer's also going to explain they had heard about what was going on in the general strike in Minnesota. He wasn't sure how they found out about it because there's no internet there, but it was inspiring.
The 1860s resonance gets even stronger.
I'm outside of the Dilley facility here in South Texas. There's a demonstration of detainees taking place inside right now. We were all asked to leave. There's a drone flying up ahead right now. It's an extremely bizarre situation. You can hear them shouting. Can you hear that? They're shouting, "Let us out, let us out." There's people in blue shirts. Again, there's drones flying up ahead. There appear to be hundreds of people through the crack that I can see. And again, I was here for an attorney visit and they asked me to leave abruptly without telling me why. ordering people who are waiting to stand outside in the cold. And I'll try and keep you updated as to what is happening.
I think even there was another video that he put out that expressed that there were vehicles rushing there. I mean, that it was some type of protest, and they were going to try and put it down in the prison.
I wonder what kind of methods they use to do that.
I don't know. I mean, prison. It's really a concentration camp. I mean, these people are not criminals. I mean, these are increasingly going to become an issue, and we need to attention needs to be drawn to these places. It's going to be hard, the same way that it's hard to sort of like publicize abuse that is happening within the context of prisons, because it's tough to get any information out of these places.
Yeah, we are unsure of how many people have died in these camps. I just like there have been at least 5 this year so far of people that have died in ICE detention that we know of. Last year was the deadliest year, and given the reports that we're hearing about the maggot-filled food, the inadequate food, no food for children that they can digest. And the thing that I just keep returning to is that report from Popular Info that they just haven't paid any medical bills for the tens of thousands of people that are detained since October. So what does that mean? It means that their health is rapidly deteriorating, and that's part of the goal, because they're trying to get people, as Sam said, to, well, one, I think the cruelty, and if they die, they're okay with it regardless. But the way that they're being instructed to operate is to essentially torture people into voluntarily agreeing to being deported. And we saw also with CCOT what the model is for them. I mean, Stephen Miller would love nothing more than the torture dungeons that we saw at CCOT, where men were sexually abused, where they were their heads were shaved, where the lights were blaring all day, and they were sleeping on top of one another, drinking from the toilet. I mean, this is like what gets these guys off.
Let's play this clip of Greg Bavino in his press conference on Saturday afternoon, showing him incapable of answering to what people had already known. This is clip number 9. And then we'll follow it up with this tear sheet right here, because there are internal fractures within the Trump regime. And now, of course, if Trump were to pass away, I think we would see them come out more. In one camp is Lewandowski and Kristi Noem, rumored to be romantically involved.
I mean, rumored. They are. Her husband just lives in South Dakota, and they basically live together. So.
Listen, people have different arrangements, and that's fine.
That's fine. But Lewandowski has not been appointed by Congress, and he's the reporting is that he's essentially running the day-to-day operations, and that he has like an office.
I've seen also stories that there is a conflict within CPB. Remember, Homan was ICE, or sort of the czar.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Bovino came from Customs Border Patrol, CBP. And there were rumors that there's stories that there is an attempt by Kristi Noem and Lewandowski to get rid of like the next guy under Bovino at Customs Border Patrol and replace him with another guy. Look, they're all scumbags as far as I'm concerned. And you shouldn't make too much of this. But internal strife, helpful. Maybe marginally so, but anything at this point is helpful. But here is Bovino. This was his response. And I wonder if this made Trump a little bit nervous that things weren't going well.
An additional gun, or was the gun moved from the scene? And I watched the video from start to finish of that woman who was wearing the red jacket, and it doesn't seem like he pulled the weapon at any point. So did the account come from the agent? Did they say that he pulled the gun before, during, after? When does the gun come out?
Again, this situation's evolving. This is under investigation. Those facts will come to light. But let's take a look at the gun. You can see the gun here on the screen there that individual possessed. It appears to be a semi-automatic, high-capacity type, possibly a Sig Sauer 9mm.
All right, no more questions. Sorry, no more questions.
So he is asked, we've seen the video. He doesn't appear to have come or drawn the gun at any time during the video. In fact, you can't really see that he has a gun on the video. What of that? Well, I don't know. We need to investigate that. However, what we have been able to determine, this is definitely his gun, and he definitely possessed it at one point.
Yeah, they're also emphasizing semi-automatic. I saw some gun expert pointing out like that it's just meant to indicate that it's not a revolver, and it's basically a handgun.
It's so funny to hear them like sort of like try and make a gun suddenly scary
like
as opposed to like
right.
But
that's what liberals do.
Right.
Nevertheless, 3 days later, today, Donald Trump seems to be a little bit concerned, or somebody who writes his tweets, who knows what, his truth things, whatever.
And uses the word wavelength.
Whatever the top regime mouthpiece, how we want to refer to him.
I'm going to guess this is Susie Wiles and not Stephen Miller on the Truth Social this time.
But who gets control of the Truth Social feed? Is like basically like a scorecard,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
and
it's a weather vane.
so here is supposedly Donald Trump. Governor Tim Walz called me with a request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call. We actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. I told Governor Walz that I would have Tom Homan call him. Now, Homan has been sort of like under wraps since the whole $50,000 bag of money resurfaced.
When we had Ryan Grimm on the Jacobin show, he pointed out that Homan was the only sort of administration figure after the killing of Renee Good to say we need to wait for the investigation.
Yeah. And so
like, can you have Homan write instead of call?
Huh?
I would have been like, can you have him write instead of call?
I can't understand anything he said. And that we are looking for any and all criminals that they have in their possession. I don't know what that means. The governor very respectfully understood that, and I will be speaking to him in the near future. He was happy that Tom Homan was going to Minnesota, and so am I. We have had such tremendous success in Washington, D.C.,
They got caught in
Memphis,
Minneapolis?
Tennessee, and New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay. Virtually every other place that we have touched.
Yeah.
All the places that we have touched. Interesting choice of words. And even in Minnesota, crime is way down, I would imagine, because everybody's afraid to be on the streets.
From what I've read, there's been 3 murders in Minneapolis this year, and 2 of them
committed by ICE.
Yeah, so
But both Governor Walz and I want to make it better. President Donald J. Trump. So bringing Homan in.
The moderate.
Yes.
Trump and Homan are the moderate flank of MAGA right now.
The point is that any type of dissension there is good, because at one point, it seems inevitable to me, there is going to be more serious conflicts that are going to be broader, that are foreshadowed by the National Guard wearing reflective bibs so they can be differentiated from ICE militia. And the idea that there could be any type of fracture within these ICE DHS forces is good, because if certain orders have to be given at certain times, who knows what, and there's one faction who says, like, we should not do it this way, and another faction says we should do it that way, that's good. It's not as good as we shouldn't be doing any of this, but that's not happening.
We'll report on this more over the course of the week, but I'm seeing some things about another shutdown on the 30th.
In Minnesota.
Yeah.
Let's play this. I'm curious about this. Broadly speaking, I am not a fan of this. What is the name of the Pivot podcast? And it's Scott Galloway. He is a professor, I think, at NYU, and Kara Swisher, who, brought us years and years of hagiography of Elon Musk. She has since apologized, and she realized she made a mistake, blah, 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 blah. Galloway,
another highly paid person who makes
really
mistakes.
highly paid by Vox for podcasting, millions and millions of dollars.
But still, she apologized.
Look, have some grace, Emma.
Exactly.
I'm sorry.
Just because,
she made a mistake.
Just because you say you have crypto in people's retirement.
She built.
You need a road to redemption.
She built a ladder and remains where that ladder took her, but just knows she has disdain for the ladder. So that's the important thing.
That feels nice.
Anyways, Galloway is an interesting figure because not hard to find him talking about stuff that I think many of us would agree with. He is very much a sort of I don't know if he would identify as a neoliberal, and I don't know that he is, but he's certainly very much looking for ways to maintain the sort of structural dynamic that we have. Now, he does believe that there needs to be a serious, almost confiscatory taxation. I've heard him talk about this as well. So there's interesting stories. And what's interesting here is he is talking about people withholding their role within society as a way of shutting things down. And he certainly understands the sort of the moment that we're in. And it's sort of interesting to me in that his role for labor here, he sort of begrudgingly acknowledges it. But I know this will be a little bit this is a nuanced argument in terms of response. But I want to say, broadly speaking, happy to have any type of call for people's action and an awareness that this is not a time where we're going to be saved by politicians. The politicians are our tools, and they are one of the tools that we need to use. But we are the ones who need to be exercising this, and it has to be broader than the couple arrows that politicians represent in our quiver. But here is Galloway.
Something I'm spending a lot of time thinking about and trying to get some politicians on board with and some public figures is the following. If you want to understand real power and the difference between being right and being effective, stop watching protests and start watching gross domestic product, specifically GDP. Trump does not respond to outrage. He responds to markets. And that's not cynicism. It's mechanics. I'm not talking about a labor strike. This isn't unions, picket lines, or collective bargaining. I'm talking about something quieter, far more unsettling to the system, and that is an economic strike. A short-term coordinated withdrawal from spending and maybe work.
Well, they did that. They did that in Minnesota. They had a day. The business is closed for.
It can't be a day. A day is annoyance. It needs to be a week or a month, and it needs to be national. The U.S. economy is $27 trillion. That's $74 billion a day. And here's our power, Kara. Our economy is 70% consumer-driven. Consumers actually have more power, not in signs or in guns or even in their vote right now. They have it in the power of the purse. A very small change in behavior could have an enormous effect. It's not cinematic, it's not romantic, it's not going to be written up in great history novels. But if you could figure out a way to basically kick a small number of companies related to the tech economy that account for 40% of the S&P right now and who are the people he cares about, if you canceled all of your streaming media platforms, if you canceled OpenAI and Anthropic, and you said, I am not upgrading my Apple phone, and there was a real movement that registered, and they had to disclose it, in their earnings calls, this shit would come to an end pronto.
So this is interesting, and like I almost like wanted to play this just to look at the look on Matt's face.
Yeah.
I mean, here's part of the problem. Okay, if you found a way, part of the problem is that as consumers, relying on citizens, residents, people as consumers is problematic in the regard that they are not organized around anything. They have no relationship to each other. You can bump up to your friend and go like, oh, you got an iPhone? I got an iPhone. It's very difficult to have solidarity across shared consumer fates. Also, incidentally, because we also know that 50% of the economy is a function of the top 10% of the population. So you can get everybody to, stop their streaming, their Netflix streaming based upon their just being Netflix subscribers. But I mean, if you can't get that to happen based upon even the use case of Netflix, what? They canceled, whatever show. I'm going to quit my my Netflix. It's not going to happen that way. I mean, the idea of shutting everything down is a good one. And the idea of shutting everything down for an extended period of time is also a good one. But you're going to need an existing network, A, and B, it needs to be from power that is not a function contingent upon what product is or is not available. It has got to be shutting down the availability of the products. And the way you do that is by shutting down, by exercising what you are giving into the system. In one instance, it's money as a consumer, but the other thing is in the actual production of things. There is all of those products that he's talking about will not make it to marketplace if the labor associated with them decide, I'm not doing this.
It's just, I mean, well, it's interesting he disaggregates that from labor, because what I've been hearing, the general strike idea was what Sean Fang was talking about last year, coming up in 2028 on May 1st. So I find it, I mean, what Minnesota doing that with their general strike, I mean, it was very also community focused in the sense that it was what was happening to them. And there's another one coming up. I think it's a step in the right direction. But people already are so disempowered as consumers because like they don't have the spending money. We're hitting records of credit card debt over and over again. People already are having a hard time saying like which subscription should they keep, which subscription should they not. It's not really a time where people have the empowerment to flex as consumers in the way that's being described there. Without labor and without it being on the production side, I'm not necessarily sure how disruptive it is.
Well, I think it can be disruptive, but the problem is you can't organize it.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing is like it's a cart before the horse scenario. You need labor, whether it's, I think, teachers, flight attendants, sanitation, organized labor to lead it. And then, yeah, everyone can participate with their own sort of symbolic sort of things. Like there's a great article here, Eric Blanc talked with Stephen Lerner and Jacobin. Can boycotts help workers? And this goes into like the table grapes boycott, which actually Peter Thiel used to speak out against. I can't get it small enough to appear on screen, but can boycotts help workers with Stephen Lerner? But you can't minimize the role of the organized political group that is supposed to lead.
Well, I think, this is the thing that I think is embedded in that. It may be the case that you could do more damage to Donald Trump by undermining 30% of the economy through consumer action. Although I would imagine you could undermine the economy much easier with broad-based labor action. But part of what happens after a consumer boycott is that you have no political power that remains.
Yeah.
We all just go back to our individuated consumer choices and that's it. I mean, this is like in the fantasy world where you could say like, I'm sending out an email to everyone who has Fubo, and you're going to stop your streaming services tomorrow or whatever it is. What happens after a labor movement or labor action is that you have more of a labor movement.
Exactly.
And I think the reason why you would attempt to have consumers first is because they just go back. There's no consumer unions. There's no consumer associations.
Yeah.
There's no political movement the day after your boycott ends. Because there's been no sort of like it is around just like a product. There is no organizational structure here. The idea that you're going to get thought leaders and politicians to agree on thought leaders, I will tell you, they will all have their own debate as to what it should be. There's no opportunity for any type of like transaction or negotiations or democracy associated with it, the way they're talking about. It has to come from labor because there's no other entities.
Well, there's the Pivot podcast with Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher.
Well, but look, I mean, listen, I think the idea of people organizing and striking back, and part of that, like, I have no problem with a massive strike that involves also on this day, not only are you going to picket, not only are you not going to go to work for Walmart or, Chrysler or whomever, but also we're all going to shut off our streaming. We're going to cancel that for the next week or 2 weeks. Like, I'm all in favor of that. That part may even have more short-term effect than the shutting down of, I don't know what, I mean, airlines would catch up with them, but it may be the case that like you can have an airline strike, and it's quite possible if you were to get everyone to stop their Netflix streaming and to, I don't know, somehow quit their ChatGPT membership or whatever it is, that might have more impact. But the way that you're going to organize that has got to be through existing solidarity organizations. And it ain't going to happen through, our iPhone on Reddit or whatever it is they were supposed to get.
I'm gonna hold my phone another year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad to know that not updating my iPhone is a form of activism.
My Galaxy S22 is actually because I'm Che Guevara.
Union fan, didn't Indivisible succeed with their Spotify boycott to kill ICE ads on the platform? Well, I'm not saying that consumer boycotts can't influence a specific company. They can. We've seen that. My understanding is also that the ICE ad budget, it ran out. Like it wasn't. They didn't boot them off. They just didn't re-up the thing. But regardless, I'm not saying that consumer boycotts don't work. I mean, if we all decide not to go to. If we could start a picket line out in front of the coffee shop down the street, and then nobody went in there for a couple of days.
Yeah,
they're going to start offering whatever it is, mochachinos or whatever it is that we want that they're not going to get there. But if you're talking about a national thing, I don't think you can get what he's talking about to happen without the help of unions.
And if it did happen, it would be written in history books because it would be remarkable.
Yeah.
He said it would be quiet and nobody would talk about it. That's insane.
Well, more quiet than a general strike from labor, maybe, right? Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just like that's the thing is where does it go after that one day in that instance?
Well, I think that's part of the point.
Right. Well,
it's not just one day. Let's assume it's a week or 2 weeks. Where does it go after that? I think that's the point. We won't then have a type of like organized political entity that we don't necessarily have control over floating around out there. It's not unlike, when the Obama campaign had this Obama for America organization, and people wanted them to sort of like let it live outside of the administration. They were very specific. No, we're not going to allow that because we don't want to be fighting what we created.
We don't want to win Iowa again.
Exactly.
Well, and then Democrats, lost 1,000 seats from 2008 to 2010?
But I think what it did is it made it for the Obama administration. We're not going to have to deal with an organized group that used to be ours and now is maybe not necessarily in alignment with what we're doing at any given time.
Yeah. Right, Rahm Emanuel?
Jordy, PhD. You have to get someone on from our time, NYC.
Okay.
Duber, on consumer strike for social media, how many people use Facebook? Hundreds of millions. How many people at work at Facebook? 70,000. What's easier to organize? Very good point.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that in that book Wrecked, which I have referenced, about how the car industry in this country, I can't remember the two professors. Do you remember, Matt? That book Wrecked? I talked about that all the time. And this was like 4 years ago, I think 5 years ago, 6 years ago. One of the fascinating things about what the U.S. car industry did, they used to not have big, what is it, on demand? What is the supply chain called?
Just-in-time production.
Just-in-time production. They used to have just-in-time production. In fact, the Japanese came over and witnessed that, and they were like, oh, wow, this is a very good way of building cars. And, but the problem with just-in-time production is, from the standpoint of a major car manufacturer, is that you've got some shop in Detroit, or whatever, 20 miles outside of Detroit. They're the ones who make the ball bearings. And there's 40 people who work there, but they make ball bearings for 4 different, GM factories, for example, 5 different GM factories. So now all of a sudden, if 25 people in that shop decide we're going to shut this down, they could shut you down and hold you hostage. It empowers labor too much. So what they did is they started dispersing all of these sort of secondary suppliers, buying from suppliers further away. So they had less solidarity with any type of union activity within Detroit. And they got away from just-in-time supplies. So they've got all of these, whatever it is, transmissions pre-built, in a warehouse. I mean, I'm just making up transmission pre-built. But the problem was the quality of the cars went down because once they roll them off the line, they don't have the ability to make on the fly, essentially, adjustments to what they see as problematic because they've got this back order of all these transmissions or all of these, hubcaps or whatever it is. And so once they get feedback from the dealer and says, oh, we got a problem with this new Mustang, it rattles at this speed because of some part of the transmission. There's nothing they're going to do about it until they get all that stuff worked through the factory and then the next round of stuff that they're doing. But the Japanese got ahead of U.S. car manufacturers because they went to just-in-time supplies. But it's the same sort of dynamic there. Find the choke points that are narrower. They are easier to control. And if it's just everybody who owns an iPhone, you're going to need a lot of people to get on board with that.
Yeah.
And then, we're cutting the price of iPhones by 45%.
Yeah.
If you buy it in the next 2 weeks.
And in the end, too, I mean, what is a more durable political movement? And it's one that isn't you making individual choices about which coffee or not you're going to eat on the day.
That's why it's so great.
Well, that's you're picking out a bug, and I think from their perspective, that's sort of a feature.
I know. Well, I mean, but the encouraging sign is that that's more than a lot of what those guys would be saying in 2017, for example.
Yes.
I mean, there's
I
a
think-
recognition that there needs to be a major disruption. But just, I mean, don't steer yourself down that road and think that it's going to make a massive difference.
All right, let's read 10 IMs and then we'll get out of here.
Oh God, it's almost 2:30.
I know it. Nina Norfolk. Minneapolis has flock. If ICE has plates now, the city should be able to follow them if they wanted to. Heather Cox Richardson said it well. The correct response to Dachau was not better training for the guards. Kowalski from Nebraska. Last summer, I recall the Lincoln Project putting out an advertisement stating that we're not going to close down Alligator Alcatraz because its final residents will be Don Jr., Miller, Christie, and Tom Holman. If Democrats do not come together and state plainly and clearly that there will be vengeance for these blatantly unconstitutional acts of authoritarianism, then fractions within the Republican Party will get to capitalize on this. And the party will split in the United States will remain 50-50, leading to federal stagnation. Right now, Democratic leaders need to be going on the offensive. They need to seize the narrative and put this administration on their heels. Make them defend indefensible positions on every front all the time and press and press. Chuck Schumer wanted the masses of the people to hit the streets. They are there now. Pick a champion and be the antithesis of Trump. Throw the weight of the party behind them and just start the brawl.
I mean, the idea that Alligator Alcatraz is defensible to house literally anybody. I mean, of course, it comes from a Lincoln Project former Republican that would make the case that, like, we want to be cruel to these people then. I mean, yeah, we should be prosecuting Nome and Miller and all of them, but maybe not in a torture dungeon in the middle of Florida. That's my ask.
4 hours ago from Democracy Now!, a Marxist scholar, Michael Parenti, dies at age 92.
Didn't he die yesterday?
I had heard some stuff, but I think, yeah.
Saturn Girl, quoting Gramsci, pessimism of the intellect, optimism of the will. Protector of the frogs. Galloway does not like unions, and his men need better is a bit sexist, but Galloway is pliable and can be a useful idiot. Woodchuck Schumer. ICE is no different than the black-bagging fingermen from V for Vendetta, state-sanctioned rapists, kidnappers, and executioners that send people to death camps. J.D. Pants. I thought Liz Cheney was the future of the Democratic Party.
No, Eric Adams is.
Corolla. The guy said it's been 9 days, no showers, beaten, etc. in Baltimore at that facility. Illuminati kids. But now see Schumer's Republican colleagues will see how partisan their administration is being and be embarrassed. Step 2, they give Schumer a coupon for another performative vote to make things right. Most Dems would vote for Solomon to cut the baby in half and then be like, I failed to understand the vote as a referendum on whether the baby should remain alive. Amateur pawn. Getting the shooters out of the state sure sounds a lot like accessory after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Banana. QR codes. Hold on, Mr. Ice. I need to get real close and scan your QR code before you tackle and gun me down. Not to mention, like, to subdue Preddy, they were taking either a gun or the butt of a pepper spray thing and pounding him on the head. Meanwhile, the guy is, probably just freaking out because he's got that stuff in his eyes. They sprayed him right into his face. Josh from Colorado. Galloway was just covered on Decoding the Gurus, another overly heterodox but reasonably sober podcast.
It's a good show. I like Decoding the Gurus.
This is pretty significant. Rand Paul chairs the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee and is calling on the heads of ICE and CBP to testify.
I mean, any type of friction is good. I wouldn't, invest too much, but any type of friction is good. Science is political. he'll trade it away for if we get the hemp stuff back, which I'm in favor of, the hemp stuff. But
libertarians feeling some kind of shame is like pretty shocking.
A little bit, and I'm just, in terms of like we have what's his name, that fascist from Arkansas, Tom Cotton, what he heads national security, or I forget which Senate committee, like Rand Paul, if we were to pick a Senate Republican on this, at least he has some scruples about
any dissension or any friction is helpful here, and the fact that he sees a crevice or an opening is indicative of there being cracks. It does not mean that they're necessarily significant, but the point is we got to exploit everything right now. This is a what do you call it? I don't know. There's a saying for that. I can't think of it. Dokapilled. Me and Governor Waltz been vibing. I told him to talk to my designated fat guy. Chipster and Worcester. Madel, why I took on the right. Jake the teacher, is anyone calling for urinalysis of ICE agents that shoot citizens? Father Festivus, I just had a minor breakdown at the thought of Anne Frank in a bunny hat, and I watched my half Latino daughter crawling through the kitchen. Yeah. Marble Gallery. Apologies for my decades-old high school level civics knowledge, but is it possible to invalidate or reverse presidential pardons? I
don't think so.
Don't think so. I think it's very, very difficult.
Trump's just abused the power like crazy, but it doesn't seem like there's any precedent for that.
Cho, solidarity with all strikers. Look into the IWW. And two more. Anonymous. Let me be clear. It was a horrible crime against humanity, but even the internment of Japanese Americans during the Second World War, people were sent to concentration camps that had medicine, food, shelters, and meaningful employment. More people came out of these camps than went in because children were born and they had schools. We even have established legal precedent that even though those internment camps or concentration camps, or whichever you wish to call it, were not torture camps, it still violated people's individual liberties according to our Supreme Court. We had to pay reparations to the surviving victims. Morality, decency, the law, and history is against this cruelty. And the final I am of the day. MJS 617, Sam, were you guys aware that Obama gave Homan a medal? Maybe the Presidential Medal of Freedom honor? I was not. I can't say I'm super shocked.
I knew he was an Obama veteran. I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
Matt, Brian, Emma, great job today. Folks, see you tomorrow.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the lie bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light's shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid.